here. I'm Valerie Otinellis. I'm the Director of Learning and Leadership Development with Neighbor to Neighbor. And I welcome you to our Thursday edition of the Neighborhood Passions Affinity Network. A number of you have been with us thus over these last few Thursdays. Thank you again for being here tonight. And we want to welcome our new folks. So, the purpose of the network is to bring together neighbors, community partners, other stakeholders from across the metropolitan area around 8 key neighborhood passions. So, the passions are crime prevention and reduction, beautification and the environment, neighborhood planning and development, making government work for our neighborhoods, neighborhood preservation, community and diversity, caring for our neighbors, and effective neighborhood organizing. Tonight, we're focusing on the eighth passion, effective neighborhood organizing. And our topic is what's a neighborhood organization supposed to do? Have you ever scratched your head and wondered that question? So, this evening we'll start off as we usually do by introductions. So, what I'd like to do is ask you to tell us your name, your neighborhood, and then choose the next person to speak. Okay, so you got to keep up now. So I'm going to call on someone, and that'll get our little ball rolling. So, Carolyn, would you get us kicked off this evening?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn Hatcher. I live in Lakeside Cove subdivision in Antioch, Tennessee. I'm the captain of the Neighborhood Watch and so excited to see everyone. And I'm going to choose, is it Anthony? Am I saying it right? Okay, Anthony, how you doing?
I'm doing great. My name is Anthony Viglietti. I live in Inglewood and have since 1986, and I have been president of the Inglewood Neighborhood Association in the past and active in my neighborhood, as Jim can tell you. And so that's me. I choose Anita.
Um, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Tony. I am Anita Armstrong, president of Greenwood Neighborhood Association in East Nashville. I have lived here for 40 years, and I picked Jim.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Hawk. I live over in historic Edgefield in East Nashville. I've been there for, I think, over 16 years now, and I'm also the executive director here at Neighbor to Neighbor.
Pick somebody, Jim.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot. Let's go ahead and ask Pearlie tonight.
Okay, I'm Pearlie Murray Dunn, and I'm one of the leadership people. We don't have what we would call one president, but we have three people that act as president of the Haynes Manor Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
And right now, our board meeting is going on, and I skipped that to be on here.
Oh, thank you.
And I lived in Haynes Manor.
Pick somebody, Pearlie.
Let's see, who else is on? I don't see
You can, okay, Suzanne, go ahead.
who.
Suzanne.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Sue Goodman. I live down by Old Hickory and Barnes in Heaton Creek subdivision. I was president immediately upon moving in 4 years ago. I was made president of the HOA. I have since wiggled my way back to secretary. So I'm very, very interested in all that is going on around here, trying to get the license plate readers approved. It's our big thing right now, just because we have so much crime coming into our neighborhood from just over on Bell Road and 24. So any opportunity I have to learn from you folks who have been doing this for a long time, I'm all for it. So who else is here? Because I can't see anybody else that's new.
I'll pick somebody for you. Jean.
You please do.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm Gene, Paragon Mills, and glad to see all of you.
All right. You'll get somebody. Will you pick somebody, Jean?
Zaya?
Hi everyone, my name is Aya. I live in Hermitage. I'm on the board of Donaldson Hermitage Neighborhood Association. It's nice to meet everyone. And Jeremiah, you're up.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Dameron. I am in the White Bridge neighborhood in West Nashville. Not currently part of any leadership within the neighborhood association, but a renter in the neighborhood and very interested in getting more involved. And I've been loving the Passion Affinity Network meetings every Thursday, trying to be a sponge, get as much as I can. And I will pick, I think, Catherine, did you go yet?
No, I haven't quite yet.
All right.
So I guess I'm crashing your party here all the way over in Tennessee. I thought it was a national meeting, but that's okay.
No.
I am with NeighborWorks Pocatello in Pocatello, Idaho. We are a NeighborWorks America network organization. And I actually work and coordinate with 6 different neighborhood associations here. So when I saw that you guys were going to be having discussions tonight about how you've tried to deal with things with COVID going on, I was pretty interested to get some perspectives from some other neighborhoods. So.
Well, welcome, welcome. We're excited to have you here with us. Have we gotten everybody tonight? Yes, I believe so. Thanks so much. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that. You all doing the introductions. So before we get started on this evening's topic, let us take a little moment to discover, I'm sorry. I keep losing my place, guys. I apologize. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about Google, who is now become a sponsor of ours, and particularly around the Neighborhood Passions Affinity Network and C4N Nashville, which is our conference. And so we're excited to welcome them as our champion sponsor and look forward to working with them to present these great trainings and networking opportunities as we go forward. Again, tonight's topic is what's a neighborhood organization supposed to do? And I am so excited. As you all know, many neighborhoods across our metropolitan area have neighborhood organizations, and you all have mentioned some of them: Crime Watch, homeowners associations, and neighborhood associations. But what are these organizations, and what are they, and what role do they really play in our neighborhoods? So tonight we're going to explore those roles. We'll explore the roles these organizations play within our neighborhoods, particularly now that we're having to deal with COVID. And we have an expert to facilitate this conversation. Look at Jim. Jim is executive director, as he said, of Neighbor to Neighbor and a longtime resident of Nashville. He really is passionate about building strong and vibrant neighborhood organizations, which is central to his work. He has taught numerous courses on neighborhood organizations and creating positive change right where you live. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be in this chair tonight. It's a different position than being a host of this group. I think that I want to start out by clearly saying tonight that this is not my opportunity to pontificate. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell your neighborhood organization what to do. I'm here to share with you what I've seen, what I've heard, and you are invited to, if you find something that is helpful or that is a benefit to you in your neighborhood, take it. And if it's not, don't worry about it. That it's just whatever works for you. So I want to start out tonight by talking about the 4 roles that neighborhood organizations generally play. I want to talk about that because I think that a lot of times we get sort of pigeonholed this is what we do as a neighborhood organization. And the reality is there's really 4 roles or functions that a neighborhood organization plays. And I'm talking about neighborhood associations, crime watch programs, homeowners associations, though I will say that they have an additional role of being property management as well. And then also resident associations, which takes a whole slew of both voluntary and involuntary memberships. But all of them play have at least 4 basic roles. And I thought I'd go over those tonight, and then we can get into the COVID-19. But I think if we look at them through the framework of those basic roles, it might be helpful to us. I'm not a big fan of slides, so I'm not going to share a slide with you, but I am going to take this drawing board, which I just got today, and so I'm learning. But I wanted to draw something, and I'm a horrible artist, but I wanted to draw something for you tonight after we talk about these 4 roles. There are basically 4 roles neighborhood organizations play. And I'm not going to, the first role that is very important is social networking. Neighborhood organizations bring people together to get to know one another, to develop relationships, to foster trust among neighbors. And that role we see frequently in neighborhoods across actually everywhere that there are neighborhood associations. Some of you who are involved in neighborhoods, I'm going to have this be a little bit more interactive tonight. Can someone tell me one social networking activity that they have in their neighborhood?
We have movie night.
Movie night, perfect. What happens during movie night, Sue?
Well, we get all of the kids. We do usually a Disney movie early in the evening, spring and fall when it gets dark soon enough, and just get families together to sit and talk. And we used to have a realtor who would do the organization, and he would promote his business as well as bring drinks and popcorn and just make it fun for everybody with little Amazon gift cards for joke telling and things like that. So everyone could participate.
So I'm going to ask this question. I'm asking it this way intentionally. Why do you waste your time on this activity?
Because the neighbors enjoy it and the kids love it.
Okay. All right. So let me see here if I can do this right. Okay. The second role that the neighborhood organizations are involved in is service. All right. Now service can be, there we go. There are a variety of service opportunities that neighborhoods engage in, caring for seniors, neighborhood cleanups, offering programs to youth or teens in the summer to give them something to do when they're at home without school. Anybody else have an example of a service project they've done in their neighborhood?
We have done, this is Pearlie.
Yes, Pearlie.
We have done neighborhood cleanups, and some of the young people have cut the grass for the older people to help them out with different things.
Outstanding. Those are beautiful examples. The next role that neighborhood organizations play, though sometimes not very willingly, is the role of education. And sometimes we get into the 4th role and don't spend enough time on education. I'll give you the 4th role in a minute. But for instance, we're often debating planning and development issues in local neighborhoods, right? And what we also need to be doing is helping people understand the process behind education, or the process behind those planning and zoning rules and decisions that are made, helping people understand how to vote. And one neighborhood organization locally here has taken that even a step further. They created Creve Hall University. which is once a month they bring neighbors together, and one of their own neighbors presents a program, an educational program. Anything from changing tires to a conversation about a recent book that one of them wrote, to help neighbors learn more, to grow as individuals, and also grow as a neighborhood. And then the final example is advocacy. And this is the one that a lot of times most people think about when they think of neighborhood organizations. We're going to go down to the council and we're going to give them what for, because they're not doing this for our neighborhood, or we're going to go after that developer who's developing something that we just do not like. And so that is part of the role of a neighborhood organization. So social networking, service, education, and advocacy. A lot of people who are elected or become presidents of their neighborhood organization, though not all, usually are advocates. And what they're really trying to do is make the neighborhood a safer place, to advocate for their neighborhood on behalf of their residents. And they're very focused on advocacy. And that is incredibly admirable that is their interest. One thing, though, that we've learned over the years is that most people who want to belong to neighborhoods don't really get involved for the advocacy part, right? And so we've developed this little triangle, which this is my one drawing thing, and hopefully I don't do it that good, but there's my little triangle. Okay, good, it did it. And why I do this triangle is because what we found about people getting involved in their neighborhood organization is that most of them just get involved because they want to get to know their neighbors. They want to build relationships. In fact, a significant majority of people want to get involved for that reason more than any other reason. The second reason that people really get involved is for the opportunity for a service. They are the folks that see a need in the neighborhood. Anthony is a great example of this with his interest in beautification, right? He wants to make his neighborhood a beautiful green space. And so he's out there getting involved. And so those opportunities are really important to him. Education comes in, and there are people who just, they're frustrated by the system that they do not understand. And so they are trying to figure it out. And so they go to a meeting to meet their council member, to talk to the police officer that's there, all to learn about what's going on in their neighborhood. And then a smaller group of people really get involved because of advocacy. The only time this model really doesn't work is when there's a fire. When there's a real, and what I mean by that is when there is a real big problem in a neighborhood, everybody will come out for that. And so they can jump to that advocacy. But what we have been encouraging folks to think about as they're working with their neighborhood organization is how much time they spend on advocacy compared to how much time they spend on social work networking. In reality, the social networking plays a vital role in the development of a neighborhood organization. It is the basis for a successful neighborhood organization. Now, please understand, I am not saying that every week you should have a keg party. That's not my intent, all right? My intent here is just to say that finding ways, even in a business meeting, to help people to get to know one another and develop trust is critical to the success of your organization. In fact, people who are involved in social networking may come only to that for years, right? You have a business meeting, nobody comes to the business meeting, but how many people come to the party that you have, or the movie night that you have, or whatever the social event is, right? In a sense, that's okay. What you are helping to do with those folks is allowing them to build the trust and allowing them to be where they are most accessible to your neighborhood organization. And you have the opportunity for them to gain trust in you. All right. So that when a crisis does come, they are looking to you and your neighborhood organization as a viable place, to come to find solutions. Interestingly enough, with this triangle, people that are engaging in social networking, sometimes you can move them on down this pyramid. So if they're involved in social networking, you may find that you can invite them to attend a service opportunity, and they'll come to that service opportunity because it's a natural pathway into the neighborhood association. So they're doing social networking. They're having a time at Hey Sally. We're having a neighborhood cleanup next week. Would you be willing to join us? Right? In a period of time, all of a sudden you realize that Sally's coming to every service opportunity that you have. All right. Some people will never do that. Some people just don't want to have those opportunities in their life, and that's okay. But for a lot of people, that's a pathway into deeper commitment to your neighborhood organization. And for those who are social networking people, making that a fun service opportunity is a good way. I guess it's a pathway drug into deeper commitment to your organization. And then I do think there is this opportunity that once you get people going to your service, they become more engaged in education. And really what you want in your neighborhood organization is just not an angry group of people ready to march on the courthouse, right? What you really want is a group of educated and savvy people who know how to push the right buttons in order for their organization and their neighborhood to succeed. So that's why the role of education is really important here, is because you're actually preparing people to engage in the work of the neighborhood. And you're also, as Sue will tell you, hopefully preparing them to take on leadership role within that organization. Sue and nobody else wants to live the rest of their life. Well, there's a couple, but really wants to live their life as the president of their neighborhood organization. The reality is most people get involved because they're the last one standing. Everybody else has said, no, I can't do it this year. Why don't you do it? And they're the last one standing. Part of the reason why that happens, I think, is because we haven't done a really good job preparing people to become leaders of their neighborhood organization. And so by taking the time in meetings to help people understand simple things like this, well, not simple, this is not simple, but the zoning process, you know, and a simple thing like why we're allowed to make comment on some development projects and why we're not allowed to make comments on another development project because it's a by right. All right. When people begin to understand the process and begin to understand the workings of our city, it makes them better leaders and it makes them more effective and engaged in the process and better able to change the situation of that neighborhood. So I'm saying all of that because those roles are critical to the success of your neighborhood organization. All right, I'm going to stop share because you all don't need to see that beautiful artwork anymore. It's available for $100 in prints for your framing. So I'm going to go on in a minute and talk about COVID-19 because it's really important. But I just wanted to check in with you on those 4 roles to see what do you think about that? Am I crazy? Am I hitting on something? What do you think? Yeah, Sue.
And I want you to know that the reason I was chosen as president of the HOA was because I got 3 violation letters before I even moved in, and I was angry.
So you were in advocate mode, were you not?
I was in, I am not going to take this lying down.
Yeah.
But I think that is very important as to how do you get people involved? How do you train them to want to become part of the board, to become part of the neighborhood? Because so many people are just working to survive right now.
Yeah.
Their kids are home. We're all just surviving being in. And that is the difficult part that we have found, is when we do reach out to people, we get those people who are really on the fringes sometimes and end up causing more trouble than being helpful. So my question is, with this whole thing, how do we reach out?
Yeah. And I'm gonna hit that in just one more minute. So let's pin that down there. I want to finish back here with these roles and get any other thoughts that people have before we move on to that. Anybody else? How's this live out in your neighborhood? Yeah, Anthony.
Well, in Inglewood, the association has probably stresses more of the social networking than some of the other 4 components. We have a golf tournament. We now during COVID, we don't have the golf tournament, but if we were, back to normal, we would have a golf tournament, and the proceeds that are collected through that tournament, we then grant or give out grants to various people in the neighborhood, like schools more often, and then other nonprofits, etc. As far as advocacy, they're not very good at that. Now, they will host a meeting, let's say on zoning or development, but they will not take a position. And so, that's, I think, an association that represents the neighborhood should take a position because they represent the neighbors. Admittedly, this can be, when you're dealing with zoning and so on and planning and development, it can be contentious. And that's just part of it. But hopefully we can come together and come up with a consensus of what we would like to see take place in our neighborhood. That's
And what you just said is so critical. I've seen really good neighborhoods split and die because they felt like they had to make a decision on a particular issue, historical, contextual overlays. And it was a 50, 45, 55, vote. And, they didn't have consensus. And it was clear that there wasn't even an overwhelming majority of neighbors wanted it. And they took that position, and it kills their organization. So having rules set up that help guide the advocacy is really important. And so I'm sort of not, I understand the concern of your neighborhood organization not to take position, but I do think that there are some times when a neighborhood organization can take a position, but it needs to be a pretty high bar for that. Otherwise, you run the risk of splitting. So one of the things that a good leader will also do, and this takes skill, is Anthony, I'm going to pick on him because I really have known Anthony for multiple years. Anthony is a beautification. he exemplifies the passion of beautification. He's won awards for being, in love with beautification, right? And the environment. Not everybody in your neighborhood has that passion. And sometimes the mistake we make as leaders is assuming that our passion either is or should be everybody else's passion. And one of the big things that I hope that we get out of this neighborhood passion network is there's a lot of passions, at least 8, right? And one of the things we should be doing as people come into our group and we get to know them is helping them identify what their passions are, and then not trying to control them by saying, well, I know you're passionate about beautification, Anthony, but we really need you over here in planning and development. In fact, we need you there all the time because that's all we're going to be doing. Anthony, if he has absolutely no interest in that or very little interest, is going to, in no time of all, be out the door because his passion was squelched. Now, he may find out that he has a passion for planning and development, but if he's forced to neglect his real passion in his neighborhood, then that's not helpful. So one of the things that we have to do as neighborhood leaders is help people find their passion. And if it's not ours, don't feel like we have to do it. Let them do that passion, and we can do ours, and it's okay. Because we're an association of people who care about our neighborhood. And if that association has people who care about it in different ways, that's beautiful, because that just makes our neighborhood a richer, better place to live. Yeah. So COVID-19, and I want to wrap this up in just a few minutes, but what I really want to say is tonight, I think when we're talking about COVID-19, for right now, the places that we need to be living are really in the social service and education role. We know how much misinformation is out there about the COVID-19 virus. And we know that there are a lot of things out there pulling people apart. We really need to leadership needs to identify, appropriate sources that they can rely upon to make sure that their residents are getting the important news and information that they need. For some of our neighbors, for some of our neighborhoods, well, all of them really, but for many of them, it's a life or death situation. Particularly in lower income or African American neighborhoods where there are so many pre-existing conditions, right? We've really got to make clear, here's the information. And we do that because people won't trust someone in Washington, D.C., right? They're more likely, and I know this isn't always true, to trust a neighbor. Now, we do live in a time of polarization where, if you don't believe what I believe, you are crazy. You need a shrink, and you're ugly. I mean, it's just that bad. But we have to try to get that information out. And a neighborhood organization can do that really well. A neighborhood organization has the tools. Just some things that I've seen and thought of in this is one, buy masks. Masks are cheap. Have a day where you all go around, have little pre-packets of envelopes or plastics, and go up and down your streets and pass out masks, and just put a little note in it from your friends at the XYZ Neighborhood Association. All right. What does that say? You're not asking them to do anything, but you're telling them that they're important. And that's a message that a lot of people don't feel that they get these days. People are feeling really isolated, alone. And so by taking that action, you're actually taking the time and reinforcing a new belief, which is you are important to this community. And believe me, when that message is heard, and noticed, and it will benefit you and your organization in the long term. I was really amazed when with the tornado that came through in March. I watched the neighborhood organizations across Davidson County. What I've realized is the neighborhood organizations that in the impacted areas that really got out there and started doing things and organizing relief, at the end of that time, their level of respect in the community was like up here, right? Oh, that organization is so great. And there were other organizations that basically just didn't do anything. And those organizations really today are forgotten about, right? Because they didn't have any real impact. And so finding a way for your neighborhood organization to have a caring presence right now is really important. So the masks, creating signs at the entrance of your neighborhood that maybe have a picture of somebody wearing a mask, wearing a mask, washing your hands, and then another one with someone waving, right? That just says, in this neighborhood, we wear masks, we wash our hands, and we wave to each other, right? That kind of, and make sure that you put the name of your organization at the bottom of those signs, right? So that people understand that you're communicating this very positive message. Service. This is an opportunity, and I got to watch my time. Thanks, Valerie. Got to watch my time, but this is an opportunity now where you can ask people, hey, we have 500 masks. We need people who are willing to come out and deliver them. What do they call it? Contactless delivery to neighbors. If you're willing to walk your street and pass out masks, we'd appreciate it. Other groups, Anita, I think your group's doing this too, checking in on seniors, right? We need people who are willing to
Yes.
check in on our seniors, people who are willing to get groceries for them. Those type of things right now are really important. It's different from what we normally do, but it is really important to do. So that's one possibility. And then finally, social. People are, I have a very good friend who was going to be here tonight and she wasn't able to make it, but she said, if I'm living in my house right now 24/7. I'm not going to tell you how old she is, but she's a little older, right? And so she doesn't feel safe being out in public a lot. And so she's lonely. And so providing occasions for people to interact is okay. It really, we never should have started this pandemic by talking about social distancing. Social distancing was the wrong word to use. It's about physical distancing, right? When we say social distancing, people isolate. But physical distancing just means you stay 6 feet away. So I've seen incredible things where people have movie nights and their family comes and sits in a blanket. They've lined out 6 feet apart and everybody's sitting in 6 feet apart with their masks on, enjoying a movie together, and it works. And it's a social gathering. Obviously, things to involve to avoid are potlucks, right? But you can still do things where maybe you do packaged, or maybe everybody brings their own meal and sit around tables together. It depends on how large your neighborhood organization is and how big the space is that you have. We're still doing classes, in-person classes here. We used to do classes with 24 people. Now we do them, we have 8 people. Everyone sits at a 6-foot table. I never will forget, probably 2 months into the virus, when people were talking about physical distancing, I went to a neighborhood group and everybody was all sitting around the table together, unmasked, just talking to one another. Well, we know better today, right? But you can do a 6-foot table and you can have one person sitting at it and you can still have meaningful conversations. So I would just encourage you not to give up on all of these roles that neighborhood organizations play. You just got to be a little bit more creative. Have an art show. And just space, that people can go one Saturday up and down the street at their leisure. Do something that is different, but allows people to be outside in the open air, and enjoying seeing one another, even though we're not hugging or shaking hands or anything like that. All right, I've gone over my time. That's what I've been thinking about. I guess what are you thinking about? Where are you at in all of this?
I think for me, the closest thing that I've seen, I actually got involved because there was a Facebook group for our neighborhood association. And so I've not been to an in-person meeting with my neighborhood association. So for me, it was a good way to see who the members were online and do a little, checking out their profiles on Facebook. And oh yeah, I've seen this guy walking around the neighborhood and now I know his name and I can say hello when I'm walking the dog. So I think, especially during COVID, taking things online when you can makes really good sense. We know not everybody's on Facebook, but what you said really resonates, Jim. I mean, for folks like me who are not as involved in the business meetings or maybe are just now getting involved, I'm hungry and eager to still know who my neighbors are, even though I can't hang out in their backyard and have a beer with them right now.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeremiah. Anybody else?
I think that there was a question in the chat. Did I see something?
Yeah, so, and you all can chime in. This is not, so Zaya writes, this is not a related question, but I am curious about how many neighborhood associations charge fees to be members, and if that's a good practice or prohibitive exclusionary to some. The answer is yes. So, some neighborhood organizations do charge fees, some don't. The best practice that I've discovered so far is over in East Thompson community. They say every year they want their in order to become a member, you have to give something. And the amount of money is on what you are capable of giving. And what they found out was, they were charging neighborhood organizations the fees vary widely. $5 to, I haven't heard really of more than $50. But unless you're a homeowners association, then they're way up there, right? But $5 to $50. Most charge around what, $10 or $15 a year, something like that. Some 25. What they found was a lot of people. Because they said, give what you can, or, this is, of course, they had a budget, so they knew what the budget was, but give something, they actually got more money out of that. And so that's one thing to think about. The important thing is two things with that. One is don't ask for money if you don't need it, right? Make sure that you have a need. And if you do have a need, I really do ask people to be cognizant of what people are having to live with. Every neighborhood has people that are living on fixed incomes. Now, in some neighborhoods, that fixed income is pretty high, and in some neighborhoods, it's pretty low. But every neighborhood has people living with a fixed income, and every neighborhood has people who are unemployed. So finding a way, I always appreciated when this was in the 80s, I used to go to some events, some community events that were sponsored by the Nashville Women's Alliance, which was a local lesbian group. And they always had this tagline under, they always said, this is how much it costs. And then underneath it said, no one will ever be turned away for lack of funds. And I was so impressed by that. That's our policy here. We will never turn anyone away for lack of funds. We need money for this organization to continue as an organization. I just put in the thing a link to give because we're doing our annual membership campaign right now. But we need money in order to survive and in order to really flourish, right? But I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't access our services here because they don't have enough money. And I would think that that's something that we as a neighborhood association needs to think about is, everybody has something to give and it may not be money. So figure out how to make that happen. I think that's really critical. Zaya, does that help to answer some of your, okay, good. Yeah, Sue.
I found that a really good source for information is actually nashville.gov. We have a message board out in front of our association, and I've kind of taken it on myself to print out when they're in different restrictions. What are the rules going on in our township? And then they actually had I was over at the Smith Springs Recreation Center, and they had some things about if you have COVID, what are the symptoms of COVID? And then they had please wear a mask, and they had it in English and they had Spanish. And so I also try and take into account not only the fact that there are people with money and without, but there are people who are English speaking and not.
Right.
And try and be inclusive of all of those people. But that is a really good free source of information. Okay. Also the Nextdoor app. I don't know if you guys use the Nextdoor app, but we find that is a great way to communicate. And we changed our way of working with people. Our previous board was very ruling. They were bosses.
Yeah.
And our board has decided that our goal in life is to be helpful. How can we help you?
Yeah.
You have a trailer in your drive and you don't have any place to put it. Can we help you find someplace?
Right.
Rather than we're just giving you a violation. We don't care where you take it. I think that's attitude.
Right. Thank you. That's a perfect way to close out the evening on how can we help you? That's perfect. I love that. I'm sorry, Carolyn. There we go. I didn't see.
That's okay. I've got a question. Do you delegate one person in your board to collect your donations? That's a little concerning for me. How do you get your trust for your monies that are coming in?
Typically, folks have treasurers who are handling the money. Am I wrong or right about that? Yeah. So they're the people who handle the money. So
okay.
And you really want that to be a trusted person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Jim, thank you so much for those words of wisdom. They were very helpful. All right. Great. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've inspired me, Jim.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Jim.
Take care.